first and foremost, must be a law that says that everyone has a right not to be blacklisted because of his or her trade union activities. Secondly, I remember the great campaign fought last year by the RMT on behalf of two of its workplace officials who had been victimised because they represented their members so effectively. So point two, every worker. We must have a law that says that every worker, that no worker shall be victimised, every worker shall be protected from victimisation because of his or her trade union activities. We don't want any more martyrs in our movement. We want effective legal protection. We want a law that says that every worker in this country has a right to be protected by a collective agreement. When I started work as a young man in the late 1970s, I was one of 82% of the workforce who was protected by a collective agreement. John Hendy told me last night that that figure has fallen today to just over 20%. Now that has to be reversed, and we need to get some support from a Labour government to help us in that project. Fourthly, we need a law that says that every worker has a right to effective collective bargaining, not just to be covered by a collective agreement, but a right to effective collective bargaining. No variation of our contracts without workplace representation. Nobody should have their terms and conditions changed without effective representation by a trade union. No more Section 188 notices that are being used to alter people's terms and conditions of employment without their consent. 5, we need a law that guarantees a right to strike in line with international standards, including a law that says that British workers, like their counterparts elsewhere, can take industrial action to protest against the decisions of the government as well as against the decisions of their employers. 6, we need an effective law that says that workers in this country must be free again to take solidarity action on behalf of those who are in distress. We are one of the very few countries in the world where solidarity, sympathy and secondary action are now all forbidden. One of the great achievements of the Thatcher government in 1990 was to legislate the illegality of all forms of solidarity action, and that must come to an end under the next Labour government. And 7, picking up on the point that Sarah Veal made earlier, we need to have laws in place now that repeal the ridiculous notice and procedural lottery that trade unions must comply with in order to take lawful industrial action. All these procedures should be in the dustbin of history where they belong. And 8, and finally, we need a law that provides justice. Justice for the Shrewsbury 24, justice for the Camel Laird workers who were jailed around the same time for contempt of court after a ridiculous notion of a fair hearing, and justice also for the miners who were victimised during the Great Strike of 1984-85.